Hi, thank you so much for watching the Louie file. I hope this finds you well. Today I want to talk about liberty. Sometimes we use the word freedom, exchangeable with the word liberty, but just for the sake of this video, I'd like to just give you a word that defines the word liberty as we find it in the scriptures, and it is the word unrestrained. I thought that was great, and that really spoke to me. Unrestrained. So being restrained or handcuffed or tied up or in bondage in some way obviously is the opposite. So liberty is being unrestrained. Now, just be patient with me. I'm going to get where we need to get, but I want to take you on a little bit of a journey before that, starting in Genesis chapter 4. And what this really is about today is about how God puts an offer on the table to man, but he doesn't force us to receive or to agree with that offer. He shows us a problem. Generally, he reveals to us there's some kind of problem here, and then we either choose to take him up on his offer or we decide to buckle down or try something else, and we get what we get. And generally speaking, it ends up in bondage, not in liberty. All right, so look in Genesis 4, verses 6 and 7. Familiar story to Bible students about Cain. I'm not going to go through this whole storyline here. I just want to zero in on two verses, Genesis 4, 6, and 7. The Lord says to Cain, "Why are you angry?" Cain and Abel both had offered a sacrifice, and Cain's was not accepted. So the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why is your countenance fallen?" So he comes to him with questions. Now we already know God knows the answers, right? I love the way he does this, because this is how he often does in my life. You know, when I have a problem or something I'm looking at or trying to understand, a lot of times questions will arise. Well, what is this? And why do you think that happened? And what would God say about this particular subject matter? So the Lord says to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your countenance fallen?" He says, "If you do well, will not your countenance be lifted up? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is for you, but you must master it." Oh man. So he tells Cain, he says, first he asks him a question, "Why are you upset?" And then he says, "Well, you know, if you do well, then you won't be so downcast. But sin is right there, waiting to grab you." So this circles around this phrase, "if you do well." So I think God is telling Cain, if you do what I tell you to do, then you will be joyful and your countenance will be up. And it doesn't mean sin won't be lurking, but you have to recognize how to overcome. How do you stay unrestrained? How do you stay in this liberty? How do you stay in this freedom? Well, it's by doing what God says to do. And he's already obviously explained to Cain and Abel what he expected. And we know the story. Cain doesn't heed to the voice of God, and he kills his brother, and he ends up in a life of wandering and lostness. He has no real home. It's a sad result, but it wasn't because God didn't tell him how to operate in the proper manner. All right, so let's jump ahead into Proverbs, chapter 1 of Proverbs. I'm probably going to read several verses here because it's a full thought being given here. But so God says, if you do well to Cain, will not your countenance be up? So God offers him a solution, and he tells him sin is going to take advantage of him if he doesn't take him up on his offer. Now here in Proverbs we have wisdom, the personification of wisdom, and it's a female. It's a her. It's not a it. It's a her. Let me just read here Proverbs 1, 20 through 33. Just bear with me here. "Wisdom shouts in the street. She lifts her voice in the square. At the head of the noisy streets she cries out. At the entrance of the gates in the city she utters her sayings. How long, O naive ones, will you love being simple-minded? And scoffers delight themselves in scoffing, and fools hate knowledge. Turn to my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit on you. I will make my words known to you. Because I called and you refused, I stretched out my hand and no one paid attention. And you neglected all my counsel and did not want my reproof. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your dread comes. When your dread comes like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call on me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but they will not find me. Because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, they would not accept my counsel. They spurned all my reproof. So they shall eat of the fruit of their own way and be satiated with their own devices, for the waywardness of the naive will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. But he who listens to me shall live securely and will be at ease from the dread of evil. Wow. So wisdom is crying out, saying, just listen to me. I will pour my spirit out on you. So wisdom is available to us. God is offering us wisdom. I mean, the letter to James, James says, if you lack wisdom, ask God, and he will liberally give you wisdom. But you can't doubt. You can't be double-minded. You can't have one foot in human reasoning and psychological meanderings and what you think you want, and then over here have what God is saying, what His Word is saying, and what the Spirit of God is showing you, and just go and picking whichever one you want whenever you like. That's double-mindedness. That's a state of doubt. That's a state of unstableness, instability. Again, unstableness, instability. There's an old ancient Chinese proverb that defines doubt in this way. He says, doubt is like having one foot in one boat and another foot in another boat. So you can't stay there. Doubt, wavering, has an end. At some point you will come down in one boat or the other. You cannot remain double-minded forever. And wisdom is crying out, shouting in the street. She offers herself, but the question is, will we receive her? Will we receive her? Now let's jump ahead into Matthew 23, where we find Jesus crying out over the city of Jerusalem. Matthew 23, verse 37 through 39. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were unwilling. Behold, your house is being left to you desolate. For I say to you, from now on you will not see me until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So Jesus, God in human flesh, arrives on the scene, and he finds what he called his Father's house in the beginning in disarray, being used for all kinds of selfish gain. So he goes in, he turns tables over, he makes a whip, he runs all the animals out, and he scolds the religious leaders. And that doesn't start a relationship with them to be very nice at all. It's like he comes in fiery and angry, and rightfully so, because this temple that he was calling his Father's house was meant for people to be able to come back to the Father, to become one with and at peace and at rest with his Father, and they had turned it into a temple of lying thieves and robbers. They've been misusing and abusing God's system and God's people. So continuously the religious leaders rejected Jesus. So I could see him standing over on a mountainside somewhere over Jerusalem, and he's just longing. He's like, oh, all you who kill and stone and kill the prophets, everyone that was sent to you in the past over the decades, you have rejected, and I'm just yet another one of those. I want to gather you together. I want you to be one with each other and one with me, but you just simply refuse. You are unwilling. In verse 38, Matthew 23:38, Jesus says, behold, your house is being left to you desolate. He's no longer calling it his Father's house. He's saying your house. You've made this your house. You've made this about you. And it's going to be left a deserted place, a desolate place, a place where no real life is going to be. And you're not going to see me again until you're crying out for me, and you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And when you finally see that you need rescue, when you finally see that you need wisdom, when you finally see that you can overcome but it's only through me, then I'll be there. It's so great. He's so patient and so kind with us. But Jesus is even crying out over the ones that mistreated the prophets, and even the ones that lied and mistreated about him. In Matthew 11, 28 through 30, let's look back at that real quick. Matthew 11, 28 through 30, Jesus says, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So he has this offer on the table. He says, come to me if you're weary and heavy laden. This tells me that until we really sense and understand that we're weary and heavy laden, we're not going to come anyway. But his offer is on the table. He says, come to me, and you will find that rest you're looking for. But we reject him. We think we can do it our way. We have to take him up on his offer. And the offer still stands as long as you're breathing. If you're sitting here today watching this video, the offer is still on the table. The question is, are you weary and heavy laden enough yet to take him up on that offer? Have you seen that you've been foolish when it comes to wisdom and the rejecting of God's way? Look with me now. I only have a few more places. Just hang on. Galatians 5 verse 1. The Apostle Paul says this, "It was for freedom that Christ set us free. Therefore keep standing firm and do not be subject again to a yoke of slavery." It is for liberty. Jesus put himself into our human equation, died our death in order to set us free, in order to give us an unrestrained life, a free life, a life of liberty. A life that's only found in him. It's for liberty, it's for freedom that he set us free, but we have to stand in that freedom. We have to declare, I am not allowing anyone to restrain me and to hold me back and put me in bondage again. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stand in this freedom that he's given me. It's what he wants for us. It's why he died. One more place. Look in 2 Corinthians 5. 2 Corinthians 5, verse 14 and 15. "For the love of Christ controls us, having concluded this, that one died for all, therefore all died. And he died for all, so that they who live might no longer live for themselves, but for him who died and rose again on their behalf." So what is liberty? Liberty is dying to self-seeking. Real liberty is being willing to lose your life for his sake. You find it. When you're willing to let go of what you perceive to be your life, as if you're your own God, you'll actually find the liberty that he's offering. Cain was upset because he saw himself, and he saw himself in competition against Abel. The people that the proverb is talking about in Proverbs 2, wisdom is crying out from on the street corner, but we just continue in our foolishness. See, we don't realize that we're foolish. We don't understand that we need God's wisdom. We need God's Spirit. We need his provision. We will just, I pray that we will not continue in this pattern, but we will stand in freedom. We will stand in the freedom that Christ has died to give us. There is always an oppressive, tyrannical spirit out to put us into bondage. It's ever present at this time. So we have to stand in our liberty. So we stop living for ourselves, and we live for the one who died for us. And that's the path to freedom. Living for ourselves will lead to bondage. Living for Christ, we're free. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this today. I hope this has helped. Share it with your friends, and join me on the next Louie File. I'll see you then.